You know that feeling at work, right? You're trying to get something done, maybe watch a quick research video on YouTube, could be LinkedIn for a client connection, and bam, this site is blocked. It's just, oh, so frustrating.
Oh, absolutely. Happens all the time.
Well, today on the deep dive, we're going to tackle that digital brick wall kind of head on. We want to zero in on something you might run into when that happens, the proxy request form.
Exactly. Think of this as your guide. We want to help you understand, maybe even conquer those website restrictions at work. Our mission today really is to make that proxy request form make sense so you can fill it out confidently, get the access you actually need, without all the back and forth.
Right. So let's just jump in. Why do these blocks even exist? Sometimes it feels like, I don't know, someone in IT is just enjoying saying no.
Yeah, I can feel that way. But looking at the bigger picture, our sources point to basically three main drivers. First, and it's a big one, security.
Security, okay.
Yeah, protecting the company, protecting you, actually, from some really nasty stuff out there. We're talking phishing emails, trying to grab passwords, viruses that can, mess up whole systems.
Ransomware?
Ransomware, exactly, that can lock everything down. Blocking risky sites is just a fundamental way to try and prevent that.
That makes sense.
Right.
I mean, you hear about breaches, and it sounds awful.
No.
It affects everyone, not just the company data, right?
That's right. If you connect it to that bigger picture, a successful attack, it can stop people from working, maybe even expose personal info. So these measures, yeah, sometimes they're a pain, but they're really about protecting the whole organization.
Okay, security first, then what's next? Productivity.
Productivity, yeah. Let's be honest, sometimes it's tempting, right? Check social media, watch a quick video when maybe you should be, well, working.
Guilty as charged sometimes, maybe.
So companies often put blocks in place just to help minimize distractions, keep focus, unless, of course, your actual job is social media.
Good point. And the third reason?
The third piece is compliance. Depending on the industry, think finance, government, healthcare, there can be really strict regulations about what data can be accessed, especially on work networks or devices. Data security, privacy laws.
Yeah.
It gets complex legally.
Okay, so security, productivity, compliance. Got it. So, all right, you've hit the wall, the site's blocked, and IT sends you that link. Fill out this proxy request form.
Sure.
You open it up, and suddenly you're staring at fields that look like, I don't know, computer science homework.
Yeah, it can look intimidating. Let's unpack it. Starting with usually the first field, source.
Source. Okay, what does that mean in this context?
Well, source basically tells the network where your request is coming from. And most of the time, as our sources show, that's just your work computer.
Right, my machine. And how does the network know it's my machine specifically?
Good question. It uses something called an IP address.
IP address. Heard of that.
Think of it like the specific digital address for your computer on the network, like a house number, but for your computer.
Okay.
Now, you might hear about static versus dynamic IP addresses.
Static and dynamic?
The static IP is one that, well, it stays the same. It's fixed, like your permanent home address. A dynamic IP, though, that can change from time to time. It's more like getting assigned a temporary locker number.
Okay, so it might not be the same number every day.
Exactly. And our sources mention DHCP, that's Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. It's the system that often handles automatically assigning those dynamic IPs.
Right, DHCP. So how does that affect the form if my IP can change?
Good point. This is where it gets slightly more technical, but it's important. If your company uses DHCP, the form might ask for your subnet instead of a specific, maybe temporary IP.
Subnet. Okay, what's a subnet?
Think of the subnet like the street name or maybe the zip code rather than the exact house number. It defines the range or the network segment your computer is currently on.
Gotcha. Like the general area.
Precisely. And the key thing here, really, and our material stresses this, if you see subnet or even source IP and you're just not sure what to put,
don't guess.
definitely don't guess. The absolute best thing is just ask your IT department. Say, hey, I need my source IP or subnet for this proxy request. They'll know exactly what you need.
Okay, so step one for source might just be ask IT if unsure.
Absolutely. Saves time, avoids errors, gets the request processed right the first time.
All right, good advice. Let's move to the next field. Usually it's destination, right? This one seems a bit more obvious.
Yeah, destination is generally more straightforward. It's simply asking, where are you trying to go? What's the website or the online resource you need access to?
Okay.
So our sources give examples like, just the main website URL, www.google.com, or maybe something more specific like a particular page or channel, www.youtube.com at Silicon Thinking, for instance.
So be specific if you can.
The more specific, the better, usually. It helps IT understand exactly what needs to be unblocked.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, next up, protocol. This sounds techie.
It does sound a bit technical, but it's really just about how the data gets transferred online. Think of it like the language or the set of rules computers use to talk to each other for different tasks.
Ah, okay. Like different ways of sending information.
Exactly. And our sources highlight a few really common ones you'll probably see on these forms. First is HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. That's kind of the basic standard way web pages are accessed, usually unsecured.
Unsecured. Okay. And I often see HTTPS now with an S.
Right. That S is super important. It stands for secure. HTTPS encrypts the data. It scrambles it while it's traveling between your computer and the website. Much, much safer, especially if you're dealing with logins, payments, or any sensitive info.
So HTTPS is like sending info in a locked box.
That's a great analogy, yeah. Especially important for work stuff, client data, internal things. You want that S for security and maybe even compliance reasons.
Good to know. What other protocols might pop up?
You might also see FTP, File Transfer Protocol. That's specifically for, transferring files, uploading, downloading.
Okay, FTP for files.
And just like HTTP has HTTPS, FTP has a secure version, SFTP, Secure File Transfer Protocol. Again, adds that vital layer of encryption for moving files around.
Got it. So HTTP, HTTPS for web browsing, STP, SFTP for files. Secure versions are better.
Generally, yes, especially in a work context.
Okay. Now, often right next to protocol or maybe below it, there's a field for port. What's a port? Is it like a USB port?
Hey, not quite like a physical USB port. Think of ports as virtual doorways on the server you're connecting to. Each protocol, like HTTP or FTP, typically uses a specific designated doorway number.
Ah, so each protocol has its own door.
Pretty much, yeah. Standardized doors. Our sources list the common ones you'll need. HTTP usually uses port 80.
80 for HTTP. Okay.
HTTPS, the secure one, uses port 443.
443 for HTTPS.
FTP uses port 21.
21.
And SFTP uses port 22.
22. Okay, 80, 443, 21, 22.
Exactly. So if you select, say, HTTPS as your protocol,
I'd put 443 in the port field.
you got it. And our sources really emphasize this. Those four fields, source, destination, protocol, and port, they're almost always mandatory.
The core four.
The core four, I like that. Getting those details right is like the biggest step towards getting your request approved smoothly.
Okay, core four. Source, destination, protocol, port. Now, the material also mentions something called Active Directory groups, or AD groups. That might not always be there.
Right, you might not see it on every form, but it's fairly common in larger organizations. AD groups are interesting because they show how companies manage access based on roles or teams.
Okay, how does that work?
So Active Directory is a system many companies use to manage users and resources. An AD group is basically just a named collection of user accounts. So instead of giving permission to each person individually, they give it to the group. For example, maybe only the marketing team group is allowed to access Twitter or Facebook for work purposes.
So it groups people by function.
Exactly. It's about granting the right access to the right teams, helps with security and compliance too. So understanding AD groups kind of gives you a little peek behind the curtain of how access is managed.
Okay, so if the form asks for my AD group, it wants to know which official team bucket I fall into for access rights.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
And what would that name look like? Is it just marketing?
It could be simple, but often, as our sources suggest, it might look something like yourcompany.com marketing or maybe region marketing users. It often has a structure reflecting the organization.
Okay. And if I have absolutely no idea what my AD group name is?
Yeah, that's common too. Don't guess this one either. Your direct manager should know, or failing that, your IT department definitely will. They manage these groups.
Back to ask IT if unsure. Seems like a recurring theme.
It's always the safest bet with these technical details.
Okay. And finally, the form might have some other bits and pieces that are maybe more obvious.
Yeah, exactly. Our material points out you might see simple options like a checkbox or drop-down for allow or deny. Obviously, you're requesting to allow access.
Right.
You might also see add or remove. This usually applies if you're asking to modify permissions you already have, rather than making a completely new request. But for getting to a blocked site, it's usually a new allow request.
Got it. So those are usually pretty self-explanatory.
Typically, yes.
So just to kind of circle back, really understanding those core 4 source, destination, protocol, port, that's absolutely key.
Crucial.
And if AD groups pop up, know who to ask.
Yeah.
That seems to cover the tricky parts.
Exactly. By, taking the mystery out of these main components, you're just in a much stronger position. You can navigate the form, communicate clearly with IT if needed, and hopefully get that access sorted faster.
Yeah, we really hope this deep dive into the proxy request form has demystified it a bit for everyone listening. What might have looked like just a bunch of confusing tech jargon.
Yeah.
Hopefully now it makes a bit more sense. You can see the logic right behind each field.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you feel more confident about tackling it next time you need that work-related access. Get it done quickly, efficiently.
Absolutely. And just understanding this sort of digital gatekeeper, it really can streamline how you interact with IT. It might mean faster approvals, just a smoother day overall when these things crop up.
Definitely. So now that you've got a better handle on this particular gatekeeper,
Yeah.
here's something to think about. What other digital barriers are there at work? What other hidden systems or logic shape how you use technology every day that maybe you haven't really stopped to consider before?
That's a great question. Worth pondering.
Definitely something interesting to mull over. Until our next deep dive.